You've just found the Montana Outdoor Podcast. Here, you'll discover the people and places that make Montana like no other place in the world. If you love to fish, hunt, or just enjoy creating your own adventure in the outdoors, you have come to the right place. The Montana Outdoor Podcast is brought to you by Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer, home of Boss Snowplows, CM Truck Beds, and Diamond Sea Trailers. Go to rmtte.com and see everything they have waiting for you online, or just come by 5680 Expressway in Missoula, and by Superior Hardwoods of Montana, delivering the highest quality lumber, paneling, flooring, and reclaimed wood products anywhere in North America. Let them guide you through the woods at their showroom in Missoula on Highway 93 South or at superior-hardwoods.com. Now, let's go discover Montana's great outdoors with your host, Downrigger Dale. Have a great show, buddy. Can't wait to hear it.
Thank you very much there, Roger. And we're looking forward to having a good show. Boy, we've got all kinds of things going on here. Seasons are changing and that. Before we get into this week's podcast, I wanted to do some quick reminders. One, I want to thank our active military all around the world that listen to this show and have since we started the podcast. And thank you so much to all of you out there all across the United States and, of course, around the world that take your time out when you get a little break to listen. I hope we bring a little bit of home to you, and thanks for protecting our country and other countries around the world. Also, a big thank you to all of our veterans across the state of Montana and around the United States. Appreciate your service. Thank you for what you've done, and hope you get out and get some hunting done this year. Hunting is what we're going to talk about. Before we get into it, though, one more thing. I wanted to remind you guys that if any of you work with any of the disabled veterans groups that are helping disabled veterans do hunting trips and that, I know there's a few of them out there. I've had a few requests of people that have asked about that and wanted to donate and things like that. So if you're one of them, shoot me an email. Roger just gave you my email. I'll give it to you again, downrigger@montanooutdoor.com. Today we talk about, yes, hunting. It is that time of the year. Every year I guess this will be the second year, but we plan on doing it every year because it was so popular last year where we went around the state of Montana to every single region. There are 7 regions in the state of Montana. And we talked to wildlife managers there and asked them to give us a little preview of what they feel the hunting is going to be like. In fact, this year, we're going to start with Region 6. That's up in northeast Montana. And we've got wildlife manager Scott Thompson. He's with us today. And Scott, welcome to the Montana Outdoor Podcast. Before we get into what Region 6 is going to look like this year for hunting, could you tell us a bit about yourself and what you do for the FWP, maybe a little history behind you?
Yeah, you bet, Dale. Thanks for having me on. Again, Scott Thompson. I'm the Region 6 Wildlife Manager based out of Glasgow. A little bit about myself. I'm a native of Butte. Found myself on the High Line about 22 years ago, and been here ever since. I never thought that would happen, but been proud to raise a family up here of 4 boys, and really enjoy the High Line and all its outdoor adventures up here. I spent maybe about 14 years as a wildlife biologist in Culbertson and then in Malta. So really I've had the opportunity to work across the whole High Line. And it's a beautiful part of Montana. And and this year, especially this August, it looks just wonderful out there. We've been blessed with some recent rains, so it looks wonderful.
Yeah, the prairie has an incredible beauty to it and also presents some interesting hunting. So, this will be interesting to learn a little bit about what's going on. We found that it looks like some of the antelope populations over there in eastern Montana have done quite well. Now, you say you got a little rain. Have the drought conditions eased up a little then, do you think?
Well, yeah, it does seem like been a temporary reprieve from the drought.
Great.
If you'd asked me that 2 months ago in June, we were terribly dry. We didn't see any early moisture, and then we did start to see some rain in July and into early August, and it really spruced up the country. It's quite amazing.
Nice.
Kind of a backwards year.
That's good. Good. Talk a bit about Region 6 itself, as far as, what the terrain is like, the size of Region 6. I know it varies quite a bit. So take us through that.
But as far as the terrain, it can be considered, mainly prairie, but I always like to think about kind of the region in thirds. So it's almost 300 miles wide. So from North Dakota almost to the Sweetgrass Hills there. Um, the eastern third of the region, kind of everything east of Glasgow is very much different than you might expect on the western third over around Havre. And so I like to chop up the region into thirds. So we'll start in the Havre country. That area, we see quite a bit of private land there. We got the Bear Paw Mountains. Certainly we got a lot of prairie that exists all the way up to the Canadian line. And then on the southern end, we have some of those spectacular Missouri River breaks, bighorn sheep. So contrast that with the center part of the region. Probably most of our native habitat exists in the center part of the region. A lot of big sagebrush country, a lot of public land in the center third of the region. Again, Missouri River breaks down on the southern edge along Fort Peck and the Missouri River, and sprawling up to the north, you're up into prairie country, so really diverse. And then that eastern third, so I would consider that everything east of Glasgow, predominantly private land. A lot more agriculture being dryland farming, some really productive habitat, better soils on average. And so we see some really good production of wildlife in those areas, but again, more oriented around agriculture and farming. So.
Yeah, I think a lot of folks listening that may not be from that area probably have heard of the Missouri Breaks area. But one of the other reasons I do this podcast about the different hunting regions in Montana is to give you guys a little idea. Sometimes we get kind of in a rut where we're going to the same places all the time. And this might just give you a few ideas if you've never tried a different area of Montana, for example, like Region 6 here, of what you might run across, and maybe you might want to check some of that out there. As far as the hunting goes, Scott, what would be the percentage of public lands versus private lands that we can hunt?
About 2/3 of our region is private land. And so that's about 10 million acres. And so, the other 5 million is public land. So, yeah, a lot of private land here. And so it's really important as hunters think about access and things like that, having a game plan of how do you hunt in an area that's largely private land, or do you restrict yourself just to public lands?
Mm-hmm. Yep. Are the private landowners open to allowing hunting on their land? What's your feeling there as far as getting access?
I don't know if I would say most, but I would say this part of Montana still represents good opportunity to knock on doors, have a cup of coffee, take the time to get to know some landowners, and you might be surprised the access that you find. But don't expect it, that's for sure. But if you have the right approach, I know some folks have some good success in building those relationships and getting some, sometimes some really, really good access.
Yeah. Do you have people participating much in block management Region 6?
Yeah. The block management folks have partnered with quite a few landowners. I think there's darn near 400 landowners or something like that in the program.
That's real.
About little over 1.2 million acres. So about 12% of that 10 million acres of private land is enrolled in block management. So
That's
yeah,
good.
that's great. Yep.
Of course, one thing I always want to remind you, hunters listening out there, is don't do it the day of as far as asking for permission. Yeah,
Yeah,
just
for
just
sure.
bring ahead and build a good friendship in that. And I've heard great things over there. I've one of my favorite things about that part of Montana is the people themselves. They're just such great people. As far as the hunting opportunities themselves in Region 6, what would you say Region 6 is most noted for? Is it more big game? Is it more upland game bird? Or what would you say?
Oh, well, being a prairie environment largely, it kind of bounces back and forth between being known for upland game bird hunting. And then in years when we have more robust deer numbers, we, I think, are known somewhat for deer hunting opportunities. But so, yeah, birds or deer, depending on what part of the population cycle we're in. So
Yeah, well, and I suppose what part of the region too, a little
yeah,
bit. FWP has a great uh, series of reports out there. It's called the 2025 Hunting Forecast, and folks can find that on the FWP website. Um, I've also made it real easy as well on a lot of the areas, depending on where you found this podcast. Down below, usually somewhere around the play button down below that, there's a podcast description. Often you have to click on more and it expands it out. And I put a list of links there. And so there'll be a link directly to Region 6 on this particular podcast. You'll be able to click that and go direct to it too. So let's start with bull elk. A lot of folks probably don't think of Region 6 as big elk country, but you do have some bull elk in the area. Where would folks find bull elk in Region 6?
well, we have the fewest elk of any region, so I'll start with that. Just
Okay.
temper the conversation a little
Right.
bit, but yeah, our elk our elk populations are in the southern third of the region in those Missouri River breaks. So the rough terrain associated with the Fort Peck Lake and Missouri River. So there's a series of districts there. So south of Malta, south of Havre, that we have elk in, and just so the listeners understand, all those areas for bulls and cows is by drawing. So
Mhm.
if you're one of the fortunate tag holders, then tune in. If you're one of the general license hunters, you might want to consider applying in future years. And so, those tag holders, we offer quite a bit of archery hunting in the Missouri breaks, and then a pretty conservative number of rifle bull hunters or bull permits, excuse me.
Mhm.
Um, our elk populations across the breaks are down from where we have been historically, and some of that is on purpose. We've been trying to manage elk to a lower number, which is closer to what our elk population objective was for a lot of years, and old Mother Nature came through with some drought years and really reduced calf production on us as well. And so we're to a point now where we're actually below objective
Oh,
numbers of elk. Um, so your question specifically about bull elk, I think the best way to measure that is in our bull ratios. So we do manage for a little bit higher ratio of bulls to cows. Try to keep it between 30 and 45 bulls per 100 cows, and
okay.
and so that's kind of our measure. And the breaks units are in that realm. We're sitting at about let's see, my data shows about 37 bulls per 100 cows in those Missouri breaks south of Malta, and a little bit higher south of Havre, about 41 bulls per 100 cows. So
Mhm.
yeah, so those are we've been higher than that certainly, but that's we're kind of the sweet spot right now where we'd like to be. So
Yeah. Let let's shift gears a little here and talk a bit about mule deer.
Okay.
And I want to take a quick break first, but when we come back, we're going to chat a little bit about the mule deer, what that looks like. The data I had seen so far, it looks like overall in the spring surveys showed that the region wide, the mule deer population densities at 22% below the long-term average. We'll talk with Scott a bit about that and find out what the reasoning might be behind that, and get you mule deer hunters dialed in right after this. Are you going to get out hunting or to your favorite ice fishing hole this year? Yeah, I know. Finding the time is always the hard part, isn't it? Well, Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer can help you get the things done that you have to do so you have time to do the things you want to do. How about clearing the driveway or work areas of snow? Yeah, that can be a time sucker for sure. Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer has just what you need. A huge selection of Boss snowplows that'll fit any truck or ATV even. Boss snowplows are flat amazing at removing snow fast. Or how about something that can serve you at both work and on your next adventure outdoors? Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer has awesome Diamond C utility trailers that can haul work equipment during the week and then your ATV, snowmobile, or other awesome outdoor toys on the weekend. They also carry CM truck beds, the strongest, most durable truck beds around. One of those could make that old hunting rig do a whole lot more, couldn't it? Of course, Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer also has an amazing service department. Need your trailer rewired so the lights work the way they're supposed to? They'll take care of it. What about getting some other time-saving accessories for your truck installed? That, my friends, is for sure one of their specialties. And get this, Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer can even help with financing. Yeah, they've got you covered. This is going to be a great fall and winter season, my friends, especially if you go see Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer. They're in Missoula at 5680 Expressway. You can call them at 406-549-4243 or check them out online at rmtte.com. That's Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer, rmtte.com. Get a hold of them today and then start planning that hunting trip. Back here on the Montana Outdoor Podcast, Scott Thompson is my guest. He's a wildlife manager for Region 6, and we're going over our annual hunting preview of what Region 6 looks like. We'll be doing it for every single region around the state. So just, keep your eyes on your podcast. And, of course, we promote it on the Montana Outdoor Radio as well. So, and on montanooutdoor.com. So you can find out when your region will be coming up here soon as we start scheduling more and more of these interviews about it. Mule deer, Scott, as I said before the break, about 22% below the long-term average. Can you give us some reasons behind that? Was it mainly due to the drought conditions, or are you having CWD issues, or what?
Well, I wouldn't say it's always one reason. It's
combination.
A few people have heard me say this, but you can't just point with one finger to the reasons for changes in wildlife abundance. Probably better use all your fingers. So
yeah,
lot of factors with mule deer. Again, a diverse region, so 300 miles wide with diverse moisture and weather patterns and habitat. We're currently about 22% below average. That's what the biologists counted on their spring trend areas. So that just gives us a measure of where we think mule deer are at. Some of the reasons, just a little bit of brief history. So in 2020, we were almost twice the average number of mule deer in the region. So that was just 5 years ago. We were at some really high numbers. And so when mule deer are high like that, we get pretty aggressive with things like antlerless harvest. We're trying to think of whether it's impacts to private landowners and haystacks, winter range densities, things like that. And so a lot of mule deer hunting opportunity, a lot of hunters heard about good numbers of mule deer, and we saw a tremendous amount of hunting pressure in this area, kind of around 2020 and a few years after. So we moved that right into about 2021 and 22, and we had 2 years of pretty extreme drought across the region. So we're carrying a high mule deer population into a drought. It's almost as bad as carrying a whole bunch of critters into a bad winter. It's limited forage, water is limited, all things that ultimately decreases fawn production and recruitment. And so recruitment being how many fawns are actually growing up and becoming part of the population. So during those drought years, we saw fawn recruitment about half of what we normally do. And so we started to see the mule deer population drop pretty steadily in our region, starting in 2021 and into 22. And that's carried through to about this year. And so again, over about a 5-year period, we went from almost twice as many mule deer as we usually see to about where you said about 22% below average right now. So not unheard of for mule deer. They're cyclic. There's high years and there's low years, and we're in one of those low years right now.
So when you kind of conditions, is it that mule deer will leave the area, or is it kind of like I grew up on a cattle ranch where, if you have some poor grazing and hay production, things like that, the cows just don't produce the milk and you're just going to have sick calves. Is that more of what it is?
Yeah. So mule deer didn't necessarily leave and go to greener pastures, wherever that is. I'm not sure, but we see some localized movements at times, but no, the driver is, your adult population is still seeing all those things that deer die of, hunting and disease and road kills and predation, all that is still going on, but you're just not recruiting young ones to replace those at a fast rate. So, and so to correspond to that, we keep ratcheting down our antlerless harvest, so doe harvest corresponding. And this year we took a big jump downwards and we cut all of our doe tags in half. We're at pretty low levels of doe tags right now. So those doe hunters also in our region 6 and region 7, can only harvest those on private land as well.
Okay.
So no public land doe harvest in the region. So those are all measures just to let's reduce that amount of antlerless harvest, and as old Mother Nature, she's the ultimate say in how many deer and how much forage is out there. So with the recent rains, that'll certainly help deer go into winter in a lot better conditions.
Are there any specific hunting districts you could recommend to mule deer hunters that might give them a little better chances of finding them?
Oh yeah, good question. The $1 million question, I feel like. So in the introduction, I explained, the center part of the region is a lot of public land, a lot of native habitats, and we see a lot of folks focus on those areas. But in fact, those are the areas where drought was hit pretty hard. Conditions were probably the poorest. And so still good access, but mule deer numbers there are not particularly high. We see a bit better numbers to the east, those areas east of Glasgow that, again, it's more private land. It's more, farmland, agriculture, better soils, and by golly, it rained a bit more over there. And so mule deer continue to do okay over there. They see their numbers are certainly a bit better, but I say that with a caveat. It's a lot of private land, so do your homework. If you decide you want to chase populations of mule deer where they're best. So,
Let's talk about whitetail deer in Region 6. How are the population numbers looking for whitetail, and where are the best spots to find some whitetail in Region 6?
Okay, whitetail. A couple things that we see with whitetail. First of all, the best whitetail habitat is in our river bottom habitats. So the Milk River and the Missouri River bottoms, those are the most productive areas. And then anywhere where we see a bit more farmland, production, CRP, things of that, we see pretty robust numbers of whitetail. So again, that eastern third, we tend to see more whitetail habitat, and there's a few other pockets like that, and that are outside of the river bottoms. We've seen throughout the region, typically EHD, which is commonly known as blue tongue, is one of the biggest influences on whitetail. And that whole eastern third of our region saw really bad EHD in 2021, I believe. Really knocked numbers of whitetails down there really dramatically. We see that from time to time along the Milk River and the Missouri River. And thankfully, we haven't seen that for a few years along the Milk. And so currently, the Milk River probably is showing the best numbers of whitetail. That eastern third is still trying to rebuild whitetail numbers from 2021. So, overall, I think the region, when the biologists flew their surveys, we were still sitting about 20% below average across the region, with the Milk River being a little bit better than that. They're about 15% below average. So, yeah.
Any before we move on to the next group, any major regulation changes in Region 6 for muleys or whitetail that you might speak to?
No, I think we talked about that private land restriction for mule deer does. That's a big one for hunters to remember. And always check the regulations. We do have a few districts where we don't allow antlerless harvest on the general deer tag. That's down in the 621 and 622 districts, down in the breaks. So, just other than that, we're in our hunting regulations are set every 2 years, and we're in year 2 of this cycle. So,
going to be next year where we might see things, if you see anything at all, I suppose.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Let's talk a bit about pronghorn. Now, I had read that the pronghorn, especially like down in Region 7, are just doing well, but also in your region too. I heard it's like up 40% or something like that. Did I read that right?
Yeah, you did.
Wow.
Yeah. The biologist had really good count on their antelope trend survey areas. So, 43% above last year, and about 33% above the 10-year average. So that's pretty good.
That's massive. Yeah. So what caused that? Not that anybody's complaining, but
we have to look backwards over the past 12 months. And really mild winter always helps antelope. And antelope, they are a prairie critter. They're pretty adapted to more drought conditions, and so oftentimes we don't see them as impacted by drought, but certainly they are. I don't want to give you the impression they're drought. That they're drought proof, but they can eke out a pretty good living in those drier years. But mild. Actually, a couple years of real mild winter weather conditions, and we've had ample rain, I'll say, over the last couple years, and we've been pretty conservative on harvest too. For the past 15 years, antelope have really still tried to build back from really low levels after 2010. And so we've been pretty darn conservative on harvest and antelope. So it's good to see them back.
That would have helped a lot. Yeah, I see. So they're a fascinating critter to me. I've just always found them to be such an interesting animal. Where would you say would be the best places? And this could be a tough question with those critters, but where would be the best spot to if hunting district wise to find the antelope?
Wherever you drew your tag for.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's your spot, whether you like it or not.
yeah, I don't know. I I think frankly it comes down to how you like to hunt antelope. Some areas that are flat as a pancake and it's it's really difficult stalking. We can hold a lot of antelope
Yeah,
and the antelope, they know how to use that to their advantage.
they're
Uh,
amazing, aren't they? Yeah,
yeah, yeah, yeah. But we saw good response in numbers from nearly all the districts, and we were able to actually offer an additional 1,150 licenses for this fall because of the good numbers that the biologists saw in the surveys. So that was almost across the board, that we're seeing pretty good numbers. So
yeah. That was going to be my next question. Did you up that? So that's good news for you antelope hunters out there too. So
yep,
hopefully you're going to have a great season out there.
yeah.
So let's move on to some birds now. Looking at the bird hunting for both upland and waterfowl and that right after this. I want to take a minute to thank Superior Hardwoods of Montana for their support of this podcast. It is what allows us to bring you the latest from Montana's great outdoors, with very few interruptions, by the way. That said, there is another reason we are lucky to have Superior Hardwoods of Montana on board. They are an amazing business that can offer all of you some of the most incredible wood products you have ever seen. Plus, Superior Hardwoods of Montana is still a place that actually cares about and appreciates their customers, the same way we appreciate you, our viewers and listeners. They offer you something original and totally unique, like their 11 acres of wood wall paneling, flooring, trim, beams, slabs, well, you name it. Every single piece has a story behind it. Wood from old barns, historic homesteads, even historic factories. And that amazing wood can be part of your story too. Right there in your home can be a piece of American history, brought back to life, custom milled and refinished to your specifications. So it not only tells its original story, but also speaks to who you are and how special your home is. Superior Hardwoods also has exotic woods, live edge slabs, pre-finished and unfinished flooring too, all in stock and ready to go. Need help picking out the right material? Just ask. Their team has been doing this since 1977. They know how to guide you through the woods. Swing into their beautiful showroom at 5120 Highway 93 South in Missoula, or you can just check them out online at superior-hardwoods.com. That's Superior Hardwoods of Montana, local, knowledgeable, family run, and ready to help you build something that lasts. Let them guide you through the woods at superior-hardwoods.com. Superior Hardwoods of Montana. Go see them. What are the main hunting opportunities for upland game birds in Region 6? Is it a lot of pheasants or grouse, or what would you say there?
Yeah, I consider the big four is we have pheasants, sharp-tailed grouse, Hungarian partridge, and sage grouse.
Mhm.
And I almost say that purposefully in that order. That's probably the order of interest that we see in upland game birds here. Most folks are targeting pheasants, but we're seeing more and more interest in sharp-tail hunting, especially in September. We're seeing more and more folks show up to chase sharp-tails. So
Yeah.
and Huns kind of goes with sharp-tails. So
Yeah, and sharp tails are fun to hunt. If folks haven't tried that, that can be a fun deal and worth looking into. Is the pheasant population looking pretty good there in eastern Montana?
Yeah, we came out of winter in pretty good shape. So the biologists, they get their first kind of pulse of pheasant survival, we'll say, out of winter. In spring, they run some crow counts, and that's just a measure of, are there more roosters out there crowing or fewer in the spring? And so most of those looked pretty decent. Seemed to be really good over winter survival, and we kind of expected that. Unfortunately, as we got into, we already spoke about June being so darn dry, there just wasn't any kind of early moisture or cover in May and June. And we're starting to see that those broods, those young chicks, just didn't make a go of it during the early part of our summer in quite a bit of the region. So we're tempering our forecast, I would say, a bit. It's, good numbers of adults, but our production looks to be quite a bit down because of those early dry conditions this summer. And what makes it almost more challenging is now we've grown a bunch of green grass and cover everywhere. And so, we'll see some later hatches, no doubt. But we're probably spreading those existing birds out a little bit thinner now with better cover conditions now. So they're there. You just might have to hunt a bit.
Yeah. Now, one of the things, and I don't know if it's just that I have a more active group of pheasant hunters that email me. It is. They seem to be telling me a lot about out-of-state pressure. What are your thoughts there as far as hunting pressure for pheasants over in Region 6?
Well, I would say, first of all, we've always been a destination for pheasants, particularly get towards Plentywood and Medicine Lake, Freud. That's always been a destination area for both resident and non-resident hunters. So not much has changed in the past 30 years. As other states have seen losses in pheasant habitat, I would say we get more folks looking our way from non-residents because we have been able to maintain relatively decent numbers of pheasants, and we already talked about such a robust block management program. There's pretty good access. So I would still say that very northeast corner of our region, that Plentywood area, is still the major destination for pheasant hunters. And if you go there, good numbers of birds, lots of habitat, and expect to see lots of people. And that's just the nature of it. Folks that are willing to, carve out some new pheasant spots in other parts of the region. I always think about drainages that come into the Milk River that are, offer some riparian habitat but aren't right smack in the middle of the Milk River Valley. The Milk River also can produce good numbers of birds, and then those kind of drainages that come in with some riparian habitat, those are some places to kind of consider as well. So
that might be some areas where some of the other folks haven't really thought of. There had been talk about kind of changing when out-of-state hunters could hunt, that they would give more earlier access to in-state hunters. Did that happen as far as how that went with the regulations?
Yeah, no, really good to bring that up, Dale. So that'll go into effect in 2026.
26.
But it's good for hunters to start thinking about that, particularly non-residents. So non-residents are going to have to wait another 10 days to upland bird hunt, 10 days after the season opens. So, for example, Sharptail opens September 1st. Non-residents that want to hunt either public land or block management have to wait another 10 days to start their hunting. So that exempts private land. They can still utilize private land that's not enrolled in a access program with us. So same thing will be in effect for the pheasants as well in 2026. The non-residents will have that 10-day delay. And that was a bill out of our legislative session last last winter in Helena.
So, and I know that we do have out-of-state hunters that do follow this podcast. So we're not saying we don't want you, but hopefully you understand that residents, this is their area, so they got to give them a little extra pat on the back. But you are welcome, and we love to have you. And of course, there's some wonderful businesses that love to feed you and house you and all that. So just remember, they're all here, and they can't wait to see you when the time comes. So don't take that as Montana doesn't want out-of-state people anymore. As far as other challenges that you face in Region 6, what would you say are the main challenges Region 6 has as far as you as a wildlife manager?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think one thing that I've seen certainly over the past 5 to 10 years is, so we talked about our Region 6 is pretty large region, but we're, I think, the smallest human population in the state. I don't know what it is, but certainly less than 50,000 people, probably less than 30,000. So, the whole region has less people than our big 7 cities in the state. And so we have a lot of folks in the region that like to hunt and fish and recreate, but this topic of crowding and folks coming here as a destination, that's all great. But we do see quite a few of our locals that are beginning to really voice concerns about, things have really changed, and the impacts on, whether it's impacts from hunters on their access or on game populations. And so I think one of the challenges is how do we thread the needle there of trying to work with local constituents, because they're the ones that show up to season setting meetings and voice concerns to us. And then, how do we manage that and provide a good opportunity to our locals, the kids that work at the hardware store that can only hunt on the weekends, and they're concerned about, well, where's my opportunity? Because it's busy out there. And so I think I wrap that into one of the challenges is, how do we work effectively on that topic of engaging with locals, wanting to make sure they have good opportunity, while still, it's everybody's wildlife. It's not just the locals that live in Valley or Phillips County. It's the people of Montana. That's their wildlife and beyond. So, and every region has that same thing. So it's another good reminder that Montana is a diverse state. We can travel around and hunt a lot of Montana, and it's wonderful opportunities. But that challenge, it's hard for me to put my finger on it, but the last thing I want to see is local kids that no longer decide they want to hunt because it's, whether it's the access is too challenging, or it's too busy out there, or the animals aren't available to them. I think that's a challenge, is to keep that opportunity alive for both locals and youth. So.
Yeah. Well, and that's a great point, because there's nothing that's a bigger shame than seeing any young Montanan be discouraged from it, because this is their home. And now my next question, probably a tough one. You're the wildlife manager for the area, but you like to hunt too. What do you like to go out and hunt? Is there a favorite of yours in Region 6?
Oh, yeah, that's a tough question. Yeah. Yeah, seasons are 4 months long or longer in some places, but I was fortunate enough to draw an antelope license this year, so I'm really looking forward to that, as well as 2 of my boys. So I would say antelope has always been one of my favorites. The opportunity is great. The stock, the spot and stock, it doesn't get more classic than that. And if you if you mess up on a stock, it seems like you're on to the next one and within an hour. Antelope are such a visual critter, and good opportunity and really delicious to eat. So I'm going to go with antelope this year.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, good. Do you are you a bow hunter, rifle? What do you use there?
For antelope specifically, rifle.
Yeah. I know there's some people that can do it. I don't know how they do that. You got to get pretty damn close, but they are.
Yeah.
Lastly, is there anything that we haven't covered or anything that you want to pass on to hunters or any of that before I let you go?
I think just a reminder that we talked about how we go into every 2 years we change the season types, and we're going into a regulation change process through the fall, and so that'll go to our Fish and Wildlife Commission. So I would just encourage hunters to look at what we're suggesting for changes, and please weigh in whether you think it's a good idea or bad idea, whatever it is. As I mentioned, we really want to hear from folks, and to remember it's your wildlife. We're managing them for you. And, please weigh into the commission whether you think those are good things or bad things. And the same thing goes, I do appreciate there's been a larger discussion around mule deer management, and we're developing a new management plan, and there may be some changes on the horizon for mule deer management. And people being involved in that process is going to make that successful. And I appreciate everybody that's already been involved. We had a really robust conversation here in Region 6 with our mule deer hunters, and I look forward to more of those. And hopefully we can manage mule deer to everyone's preference. So
yeah,
it's a challenge.
Scott brings up a great point. When there are comment opportunities, and there often are, be sure and take part in that. And I know some of you have emailed me and said, well, you always talk about we should, share our thoughts and all that. We can't find where you do that. An easy way is just email me. I can send you links, or, talk to anybody at the FWP and just say, hey, I want to make a comment, but I'm not sure how to do that. They'll let you know.
Yeah,
so
you bet.
Do that. And the more comments they get, the better case you guys get to make to the commission, because they're the ultimate deciders of all this stuff. So that helps
That's
a
right.
lot. All right. Well, I think I've bothered you enough, Scott, but I sure appreciate the information. Now, if folks have some questions, is it okay for them to shoot you an email and get some of their questions answered?
Yeah, you bet. You bet. They can email me here at in Glasgow. We have a staff of talented biologists across the region, and happy to also point people towards their respective biologists. We're here to help. We're not here to tell you where the biggest buck or bull or pheasants are, but we can certainly help steer you in some good directions.
Though we will try to pry that information out.
Yeah.
But no, that's great. And the whole staff, hats off to all of you there in Region 6. You guys do a great job. And there's a lot of people behind the scenes that not just Scott, but so many others that make all this tick and work. And so thanks for what you do out there, Scott. And we're going to bug you again here one of these days soon and see how you did with those antelope.
All right. Sounds great. Have
all
a
right,
great fall, Dale.
Take care. Good luck to you this season.
All right. Bye.
See ya. Well, there you have it, folks. There is Region 6. We're off to a good start. Now we're going to go around to all the other regions across the state and get their input. And hopefully this is going to give all of you some great ideas of what the hunting season looks like for you, how you can maybe have a little bit better luck, get the information you're looking for, and get your questions answered. If you do have more questions, by all means, email me. Roger's going to be on here in a second. He'll give you my email address in the podcast description. I've got Scott's email address right there. You can click on that, and that'll open up your email automatically. And all you got to do is just type in what you want to know, and off it goes to him. So real simple there. So thanks for listening, everyone. Be safe out there. Be good to each other. And best of luck to you hunting in Region 6 or wherever your hunting travels take you here on the Montana Outdoor Podcast.
Thanks for watching the Montana Outdoor Podcast. You know, there's no way we could do this podcast without the incredible support of sponsors like Superior Hardwoods of Montana, home of the largest selection of in-stock, high-end wood products and flooring in the western United States. Let them guide you through the woods at superior-hardwoods.com. And of course, Rocky Mountain Truck and Trailer in Missoula, home of Boss Snow Plows, CM Truck Beds, and Diamond Sea Trailers. Go see them on the web at rmtte.com. We'd love to hear what you thought of this week's podcast. When you get a minute or two, shoot us an email and tell us your thoughts. Same goes if you have any questions for Rigger or this week's guest. Just send your questions or comments to downrigger@montanooutdoor.com. Hey, don't forget we should be dropping a new podcast this next Saturday. Until then, gang, we hope to see you soon out in Montana's great outdoors.